Melbourne now, Joe Siracusa is an author and professor of security and diplomacy at Curtin University. Joe, good to see you.
Good to see you.
You know, what we're hearing from China today seems like an about face from the kind of aggressive rhetoric we heard only weeks ago. Is this an olive branch? Is this de-escalation?
Well, Michelle, they play about several instruments at the same time.
Yep.
They've been saying this since the late 1940s and the early 50s, that Taiwan can go its own way, have its own army, navy, metals, currency, form of government, as long as it doesn't have an independent foreign policy. And they've been saying the same thing over and over again. Now, the United States has made it very clear that it isn't going to do much, but just enough to stop an invasion. And the president has said 3 or 4 times now that the United States would defend Taiwan, which isn't true, because by the time the United States got around to defending Taiwan, we would have lost Taiwan. It's one of these wars that be fought on in the air and on water, and we can't win that one. All the war games say that. Now, what President Biden is doing, and what the Chinese are doing, is they're playing their last cards. The Chinese want to make it very clear that if the Taiwanese want to roll over on this, they're not going to be hurt or anything. And keep in mind, in Taiwan, young men there only serve 4 months of reserve service. You know, it's not like they're gearing up for war forever, not like the Ukrainians. And the United States has made it very clear, the Biden administration, that it's going to take China sanctions to a new level. They're going to go after microchips and telecom and the rest, and they're going to try to bring Europe into it. They're going to try to force China to stand down before it begins. Now, Biden was unsuccessful in using sanctions to stop Vladimir Putin from invading Ukraine. I mean, Putin is still waging war, and he's still in charge of the government there. So, you know, in this sense, sanctions don't work as well as they should. They only work about 40% of the time. But the American government, since the Iranian days, or since the Iran nuclear deal, they're sort of hooked on sanctions. They think they're a very good substitute for statecraft. And of course, Michelle, there's no substitute for diplomacy.
So when China says these things that, you know, we want you to have a good, peaceful life, you can have your own social system, you can have your own, you know, limited government, you can have your own way of life, just like Hong Kong. And we've seen how Hong Kong has changed just in the past 2 years. Could this arrangement be acceptable to the Taiwanese people? And I guess you could ask from there, are they going to have a choice outside of war, really?
Well, they're not going to have a choice. What the Chinese are trying to do is make this more acceptable to the rest of the world. And since, you know, 180 out of 193 nations in the world recognize China as Beijing as the principal Chinese authority in that neck of the woods, I mean, you know, they've got that part of the battle won. What they're trying to do is make it acceptable to the publics around the world, and they're trying to sort of disconnect what they're doing, what they're trying to do, with what Putin did. I mean, Putin threatened the Ukrainians. He wanted demilitarization, denazification, and the Chinese are saying, well, you can't have your own independent foreign policy, but if you agree to that, you can go about your business and do whatever you were going to do, and we're not going to bother you. And you know, the President Xi has promised his party that he was going to bring Taiwan into the fold, and it's just part of his resume, part of his job application to be leader forever. You know, he regards this as part of the deal. And as long as we have people like Pelosi and others who go to Taiwan and says, you know, we're gonna fight alongside you, not exactly true, because I don't believe the United States will go to war over China, but I think it will do whatever it can to scare the hell out of Beijing.
Joe, always great to talk to you on these things. Thanks so much.
Thank you.